The Galactic Council chamber hummed with satisfied conversation as Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthani Empire leaned back in his crystalline seat. The vote had been unanimous, as expected. Humanity's request for advanced medical technology to combat their latest pandemic had been denied, with the same dismissive ease as their previous 17 requests over the past decade. Another beggar species dealt with, muttered Councillor Vrax, his scaled hide shimmering with amusement. The reptilian Keltar had always viewed humans as particularly pathetic, even by the standards of younger races. Their primitive chemical medicine cannot even handle a simple viral outbreak. How they survived to reach the stars remains a mystery. Ambassador Torlin of the Ethereal Collective nodded his massive head, psychic tendrils flickering with disdain. The humans grow more desperate with each session. This Ambassador Sarah Chen actually had the audacity to offer technological exchanges, as if their combustion engines and metal projectile weapons could interest civilized species. The laughter that rippled through the chamber was not cruel by design, merely the natural response of advanced beings to the fumbling attempts of primitives. The Council had governed the galaxy for 12 millennia, guiding worthy species toward enlightenment while protecting them from their own destructive impulses. Humans, despite their recent achievement of faster-than-light travel, remained firmly in the category of species too violent and unpredictable for full membership. High Arbiter Kelthane called for order with a gentle wave of his forearms. The ancient being had overseen the Council for nearly 2,000 years, and his wisdom was unquestioned. The humans serve as a useful reminder of why our screening processes exist. Their species demonstrates remarkable resilience, yes, but also concerning aggression patterns. The preliminary reports from our observers remain troubling. Their entertainment media celebrates warfare, added Councillor Myrak of the Peaceful Gardens hegemony, her flower-like features expressing distaste. They actively compete against each other in organized violence they call sports. Even their children play games that simulate combat and conquest. Ambassador Chen had left the chamber 3 hours ago, her final words still echoing in the vast space. We came seeking partnership, but we understand your position. Humanity will remember this generosity. The irony in her voice had been lost on most council members, who interpreted it as gratitude for their patient tolerance of yet another human intrusion. The Vorthani ambassador accessed his personal datapad, reviewing the latest intelligence reports from human space. Their population centers continue to suffer from the pandemic. Casualty projections suggest they will lose approximately 12% of their species within the next solar cycle, a tragic but predictable outcome for a species that refuses to abandon their destructive tendencies. Perhaps this crisis will humble them sufficiently for proper guidance, suggested Councillor Fex of the Harmonious Choir, his melodic voice carrying subtle harmonics of hope. Desperation has historically motivated younger species toward more civilized behavior patterns. High Arbiter Kelthane remained silent for several moments, his ancient mind processing centuries of similar situations. Lesser species often faced extinction events that served as crucial learning experiences. Those that survived typically emerged more receptive to council wisdom. Those that didn't served as cautionary examples for others. We shall monitor their progress, he finally declared. Should humanity demonstrate genuine commitment to peaceful development, the Council may reconsider their status in perhaps 50 or 60 years. Until then, they remain under standard observation protocols. The discussion moved to other matters as the day's agenda continued. Trade negotiations between the crystalline hegemony and the metal singers required arbitration. A dispute over mining rights in the Andorian sector needed resolution. The routine business of galactic governance proceeded with its usual measured pace. None of the council members noticed the subtle changes beginning to occur in human space. Communications traffic between Earth and its colonies had shifted to new encryption protocols overnight. Merchant vessels had quietly altered their routes, avoiding the major trade lanes where council observers typically monitored traffic. Scientific research stations had gone dark, their automated responses indicating routine maintenance cycles. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations continued their ancient work of guidance and protection, secure in the knowledge that another primitive species had been properly managed. Humanity would either learn its place or face the consequences of its limitations. The pattern had repeated itself countless times throughout history. In the depths of space, far from the Council's notice, human vessels began moving toward the galactic rim with unusual coordination. Their primitive fusion drives burned bright against the cosmic darkness, carrying their species away from the civilized core systems. No distress signals accompanied their departure. No requests for assistance or final appeals to the Council's mercy. They simply began to leave, quietly and without ceremony, while the Council celebrated another successful demonstration of proper galactic order. 6 months after the Council's rejection, the first reports of human silence began filtering through galactic intelligence networks. Trade Commissioner Velok of the Merchant Guild noticed it initially as a statistical anomaly during his quarterly review. Human commercial traffic had dropped by 37%, with no corresponding increase in internal trade routes. Computer, display human shipping manifest for the past 4 months, Velok commanded from his orbital office above the trade hub of Kepler Station. The holographic display materialized, showing scattered data points that told an increasingly disturbing story. The few human vessels still operating in Council space moved with mechanical precision, fulfilling existing contracts with minimal communication. When contacted by other species, human captains responded with professional courtesy, but offered no additional information about their activities or intentions. Captain Zorak of the Hegemony patrol vessel, Starlight's Promise, had encountered the human freighter Mumbai Express 3 weeks earlier. The strangest thing, he reported to his superiors. They maintained perfect navigation protocols and responded appropriately to all hails. But the crew seemed different, focused, like they were following a script rather than engaging in normal commerce. More concerning was the complete cessation of human requests to the Council. For 43 years, humanity had maintained a persistent diplomatic presence, submitting applications for technology sharing, cultural exchange programs, and scientific cooperation projects. Their embassy on Galactic Prime had processed an average of 12 formal requests per month. Now, silence. Ambassador Chen's replacement had arrived as scheduled, but Ambassador Marcus Rodriguez conducted his duties with stark efficiency. He attended mandatory diplomatic functions, filed required reports, and maintained proper protocol, but the desperate pleading that had characterized human diplomacy for decades had vanished entirely. They've accepted their limitations, concluded Counselor Frax during an informal gathering at the Council's exclusive recreation center. Finally, a younger species that recognizes its place in the galactic order without requiring dramatic demonstrations of Council authority. The reptilian diplomat sipped his fermented beverage with satisfaction, surrounded by his peers who nodded in agreement. The human situation had resolved itself without intervention, proving once again the wisdom of patient leadership. However, not all Council members shared this complacency. Ambassador Sin of the Neural Network Collective possessed enhanced analytical capabilities that detected patterns others might miss. Her cybernetic implants processed vast amounts of data continuously, and the emerging picture troubled her synthetic consciousness. Review the economic data more carefully, she advised the Intelligence Directorate during their weekly briefing. Human behavior patterns suggest coordinated preparation rather than simple acceptance of isolation. Director Keshan, a being of pure energy contained within an environmental suit, materialized a data stream for analysis. The numbers revealed subtle but significant changes throughout human space. Manufacturing output had increased in specific sectors while decreasing in others. Resource extraction had shifted toward strategic materials rather than trade commodities. Most telling was the medical data. The pandemic that had driven humanity's desperate appeals to the Council showed signs of resolution through purely human innovation. Mortality rates had begun declining 6 months ago, precisely when their diplomatic efforts had ceased. They appear to have developed their own solutions, Director Keshan observed, his energy form flickering with uncertainty. This is unusual for a species facing extinction-level challenges. The collective's monitoring stations began reporting additional anomalies. Human colonies in the outer rim systems had gone completely dark. Their automated beacons shut down without explanation. Survey ships dispatched to investigate found empty installations and abandoned infrastructure, but no signs of catastrophe or violence. Everything had been carefully dismantled and removed. Where did they go? Demanded Admiral Thixon of the peacekeeping fleet during an emergency briefing. The proud warrior had commanded Council forces for 3 centuries, and the implications of an entire species vanishing under his watch challenged his professional competence. Long-range sensors detected no human presence in any of their former territories. No debris fields, no distress signals, no evidence of internal conflict or external attack. Humanity had simply packed up their entire civilization and departed, leaving behind only empty worlds and unanswered questions. The Council's xenobiologists struggled to explain how a species could coordinate such massive population movements without advanced transportation technology. Human ships, while adequate for basic interstellar travel, lacked the capacity for large-scale evacuation operations, unless they had been building something new. Deep space monitoring stations began reporting unusual energy signatures from the galactic rim, far beyond the borders of civilized space. The readings suggested massive industrial activity in regions where no known species maintained permanent settlements. Impossible, declared Chief Science Advisor Naltor, his crystalline body resonating with skeptical frequencies. The outer rim lacks sufficient resources to support major construction projects. No species has ever successfully established permanent colonies in those regions. Yet the energy signatures continued, growing stronger each week. Whatever humanity was building out there required enormous amounts of power and materials. The scale of the project exceeded anything the Council had expected from a primitive species facing demographic collapse. As reports accumulated throughout the bureaucratic maze of galactic government, a disturbing conclusion began to emerge. Humanity hadn't surrendered to their limitations or accepted their place in the cosmic hierarchy. They had decided to leave entirely, taking their problems and solutions with them beyond the reach of Council authority. The revelation struck the Council chambers like a thunderbolt when Intelligence Director Kesahan presented his preliminary findings 18 months after humanity's exodus began. The holographic display showed long-range sensor data from the Io galactic rim that defied every assumption the Council had made about human technological capabilities. Energy output levels suggest industrial capacity exceeding Class 7 civilizations, the director reported, his contained energy form pulsing with urgent frequencies. The construction signatures indicate massive engineering projects spanning multiple star systems. High Arbiter Kelthane leaned forward in his ancient seat, forearms gesturing for enhanced data resolution. This cannot be accurate. Human technology barely qualified for Class 3 classification. They lack the metallurgical knowledge for large-scale stellar engineering. The evidence, however, painted a different picture. Deep space monitoring arrays had detected the construction of what appeared to be massive orbital installations around previously uninhabited systems. The power requirements alone suggested technological advances that should have taken humanity centuries to develop. Admiral Thixon activated his tactical interface, overlaying military sensor data onto the intelligence reports. Our patrol vessels report unusual gravitational distortions in 17 sectors along the rim. Whatever they're building is affecting local spacetime. Dimensional engineering, whispered Chief Scientist Naltor, his crystalline form ringing with shock. Only the ethereal collective and the neural network maintain that level of technological sophistication. Ambassador Sin's cybernetic components whirred with accelerated processing as she analyzed the implications, cross-referenced these construction patterns with historical human requests to the Council. They asked for medical technology, yes, but also requested access to our physics databases, engineering specifications, and theoretical research archives. The pattern became clear as data streams connected across multiple displays. Every rejected human request had contained specific technical inquiries that seemed random at the time. Combined, they revealed a comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation spanning decades. They were studying us, realized Counselor Myrak, her flower-like features wilting with the magnitude of the revelation. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange was a learning opportunity. The humans had been patient, methodical observers during their 43 years of contact with galactic civilization. While the Council dismissed them as primitive beggars, humanity had been quietly analyzing advanced technologies, social structures, and governmental systems. Ambassador Torlin's psychic tendrils flickered with embarrassed admission. Our psych profiles classified them as emotionally driven and impulsive. We failed to recognize their capacity for long-term strategic planning. Field reports from the outer rim painted an increasingly impossible picture. Human settlements appeared overnight with infrastructure that rivaled Council core worlds. Manufacturing facilities produced materials that shouldn't exist using techniques no one understood. Most disturbing of all, human vessels began appearing with capabilities that exceeded their original specifications by orders of magnitude. They've achieved faster than light communication, reported Scout Commander Vex High after a reconnaissance mission to former human territory. Our monitoring equipment detected quantum entanglement networks spanning hundreds of light years. They're coordinating their entire species in real time. The technological leap seemed impossible until xenopsychologist Dr. Gelran presented her analysis of human cognitive patterns. Their species demonstrates exceptional adaptive learning capabilities under stress conditions. What we interpreted as desperation was actually accelerated problem-solving behavior. The pandemic that had driven humanity's final appeals to the Council had indeed been solved through human innovation. Medical scanner data from abandoned human facilities revealed treatment protocols that exceeded Council standards. They hadn't just cured their disease. They had developed prevention methods for biological threats the Council had never considered. Look at their departure methodology, Dr. Gelran continued, displaying evacuation timelines. Complete population transfer of 47 billion individuals across 17 star systems, accomplished in 18 months without a single recorded casualty. This required logistical coordination that challenges our understanding of their organizational capabilities. The Council had watched a species facing extinction transform that crisis into an opportunity for technological revolution. Faced with the choice between accepting Council charity or solving their own problems, humanity had chosen independence with spectacular success. Ambassador Chen's final words echoed through the chamber with new meaning. Humanity will remember this generosity. She hadn't been expressing gratitude for Council patience. She had been acknowledging their role in forcing humanity to become something unprecedented. "What have we done?" whispered Councillor Fex, his melodic voice carrying harmonics of regret. "We drove them to surpass us." The monitoring data continued streaming in from the galactic rim, each report more shocking than the last. Humans had begun exploring regions of space that Council surveys had deemed impossible to traverse. Their vessels operated in gravitational anomalies that should have crushed them. Their settlements thrived in environments that would kill most known species. They had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. And they had done it all in deliberate, methodical silence, while the Council celebrated their wisdom in rejecting primitive requests for help. "Send a diplomatic mission," ordered High Arbiter Kelthane, his ancient voice heavy with the weight of 12 millennia of galactic governance. "We must re-establish contact before their expansion proceeds further." But as Ambassador Rodriguez prepared for departure from Galactic Prime, carrying the Council's first formal overture to humanity in 2 years, intelligence reports arrived with a final, chilling detail. Human settlements were no longer confined to the galactic rim. Long-range sensors had detected their signatures in unexplored regions beyond the galaxy's edge, in the vast dark between island universes where no life should exist. They hadn't just left Council space. They were leaving the galaxy entirely. Ambassador Rodriguez received the Council's diplomatic overture with the same professional courtesy that had characterized all human interactions for the past 2 years. He accepted the sealed communication package, confirmed receipt through proper channels, and promised to forward the message to appropriate human authorities. Then he vanished. Security recordings showed Rodriguez entering his private shuttle at Galactic Prime's diplomatic dock at 1427 Standard Time. The vessel departed normally, transmitted required flight clearances, and disappeared into hyperspace toward the galactic rim. Neither the ambassador nor his ship was ever seen again in Council space. "Impossible," declared Station Commander Yoltek, reviewing the security footage for the 15th time. "Diplomatic shuttles carry tracking beacons that function across dimensional barriers. Nothing can simply disappear from our monitoring networks." The beacon had indeed stopped transmitting, but not due to equipment failure or destruction. Analysis of the final signals revealed something far more troubling. The transmissions hadn't ended abruptly, but had faded gradually, as if the shuttle was moving beyond the range of known physics. Dr. Sci-Fi of the Theoretical Research Institute examined the data with growing alarm. The signal degradation patterns suggest movement into higher dimensional space. This requires mastery of 11-dimensional mathematics that we're only beginning to understand ourselves. The Council's most advanced civilizations had spent millennia developing their current level of technological sophistication. The idea that humans had surpassed them in critical areas within mere years challenged the fundamental assumptions of galactic civilization. Emergency session after emergency session convened in the Council chambers, each meeting more desperate than the last. Intelligence reports painted a picture of human expansion that defied every known law of interstellar development. "They're not just settling uninhabitable worlds," reported Chief Explorer Nalvin, his tentacles writhing with excitement and fear. "They're creating habitable worlds. Our long-range sensors detected the construction of artificial solar systems complete with stable planetary orbits and controlled stellar output. The engineering requirements for such projects exceeded anything in recorded galactic history. Creating stable star systems required precise manipulation of gravitational fields, stellar mechanics, and planetary dynamics that challenged the Council's greatest scientific minds. Perhaps we underestimated their learning curve," admitted High Arbiter Kelthane during a private consultation with his senior advisors. "Their requests for scientific data may have been more sophisticated than our analysts realized." Historical review of human diplomatic contacts revealed a disturbing pattern. Every seemingly innocent question, every casual inquiry about Council technologies, had been part of a systematic intelligence-gathering operation. Humans had learned to reverse engineer advanced physics from theoretical discussions and casual conversations. The species the Council had dismissed as primitive warriors had actually been patient, methodical students, absorbing 43 years of accumulated knowledge from the galaxy's greatest civilizations. Ambassador Sin's cybernetic analysis provided the most chilling assessment. Human cognitive architecture differs fundamentally from known species. They demonstrate parallel processing capabilities that allow simultaneous development of multiple technological branches. While we assumed they were struggling with basic medical challenges, they were actually solving problems across dozens of scientific disciplines. The pandemic that had driven humanity's final appeals hadn't been a sign of weakness. It had been motivation for a species-wide technological revolution that produced innovations in medicine, engineering, physics, and space travel simultaneously. Council surveillance networks detected increasing evidence of human presence in impossible locations. Deep space monitoring stations reported energy signatures from the galactic void, regions where no stars existed to support industrial activity. Theoretical physicists struggled to explain how humans had learned to generate power in environments that lacked conventional energy sources. "They've mastered zero-point energy extraction," concluded Dr. Mylar of the Energy Research Collective, his calculations spreading across multiple holographic displays. "This technology has eluded our best scientists for 3,000 years. More troubling than their technological achievements was their apparent disregard for the Council's authority. Human vessels occasionally appeared in monitored space, but they ignored all attempts at communication. Patrol ships that approached human installations encountered automated defense systems that politely but firmly warned away unauthorized visitors. The defenses themselves represented another technological impossibility. Weapons that disrupted matter at the quantum level, shields that operated outside normal space-time, and detection systems that seemed to observe events before they occurred. "Temporal mechanics," whispered Dr. Gelran during her latest briefing. "They've developed limited precognitive capabilities through advanced physics manipulation." Admiral Thixon's military assessment painted an even more disturbing picture. "Our tactical computers cannot model effective strategies against human defensive capabilities. Their technology operates on principles our databases don't recognize." The peacekeeping fleet, pride of Council military might, had become irrelevant overnight. Weapons designed to penetrate the strongest known defenses couldn't scratch human protective systems. Sensors that could track vessels across dimensional barriers lost human ships in normal space. "We can't fight them," Admiral Thixon admitted during a classified briefing. "We can't even find them when they don't want to be found." The Council's attempt at diplomatic contact had failed completely. No human representative appeared to receive the formal overture. No communication channels remained open for negotiation. The species that had once pleaded desperately for Council assistance now ignored the galaxy's governing body entirely, as if humanity had moved beyond the need for permission to exist. Reports from the galactic rim grew stranger by the month. Human installations appeared to be studying the galaxy itself, constructing massive observation arrays that monitored civilizations across thousands of light years. The purposes of this surveillance remained unclear, but the implications were terrifying. "They're watching us," realized Counselor Vrax, his scaled hide rippling with suppressed panic. "The species we dismissed as primitives are now studying us like laboratory specimens." The ultimate irony wasn't lost on the Council's more perceptive members. For 12 millennia, they had observed and guided younger species, determining which civilizations deserved advancement and which required restraint. Now they found themselves under observation by a species they had rejected, analyzed by minds they didn't understand using technologies they couldn't match. The hunters had become the hunted, and their former prey had evolved far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first sign of approaching catastrophe arrived 3 years after humanity's departure, when the Keltar mining colonies in the Vega sector simply stopped responding to communications. Admiral Thixon dispatched a reconnaissance squadron to investigate, expecting to find equipment failures or minor rebellions. Instead, they found empty worlds. No signs of violence, no evidence of evacuation, no remaining population, reported Captain Savleth from orbit above Keltar Prime. "The cities are intact, the infrastructure remains functional, but every living being has vanished." The missing population numbered 47 million reptilian colonists across 12 worlds. Entire families had disappeared from their homes, leaving meals half-finished and personal belongings undisturbed. Transportation networks showed no record of departure schedules or evacuation orders. "Check for biological contamination," ordered Admiral Thixon, his tactical display showing similar reports from 3 other star systems. "Scan for exotic radiations or unknown pathogens." The results deepened the mystery. Atmospheric conditions remained within normal parameters for Keltar physiology. No toxic substances contaminated the environment. Life support systems continued operating automatically, maintaining perfect conditions for inhabitants who no longer existed. Within 6 months, 17 Council member species reported identical phenomena. Populations vanished without explanation, leaving behind functioning civilizations with no one to operate them. The disappearances showed no pattern based on geography, technology level, or political alignment. Panic began spreading through galactic civilization as citizens demanded explanations their governments couldn't provide. The Council's emergency sessions grew, increasingly desperate as member after member reported population losses that defied investigation. Displacement, theorized Dr. Sephi, after analyzing the latest disappearance data. Someone is removing populations from their normal time stream, possibly relocating them to alternate dimensional spaces. The technological requirements for such operations exceeded anything in the Council's theoretical frameworks. Moving entire populations across dimensional barriers required precise control over space-time mechanics that no known species had ever achieved. "The humans," whispered Ambassador Sin, her cybernetic components processing correlations that flesh and blood minds might miss. "Every species that voted to reject their final request has experienced population disappearances." The pattern became undeniable once identified. The Vorthani Empire, the Keltar Confederation, the Peaceful Gardens hegemony, and dozens of other civilizations that had supported humanity's exile were losing citizens at an accelerating rate. Species that had abstained from the vote or expressed sympathy for human requests remained untouched. "This is impossible," protested High Arbiter Kelthane, his forearms trembling with age and stress. "Humanity lacks the technical knowledge for such operations. Our intelligence assessments confirmed their limitations." Those same intelligence assessments now read like historical documents describing a completely different species. Every assumption about human capabilities had proven catastrophically wrong. The beings the Council had dismissed as primitive warriors had become something unprecedented in galactic history. "We're not dealing with the same humanity that left our space," Dr. Gelran explained to the increasingly frantic emergency assembly. "Isolation forced them to solve problems we never imagined they faced. They've evolved beyond our understanding." The disappearances accelerated as months passed. Entire star systems reported population losses approaching 30%. Economic networks collapsed as essential workers vanished overnight. Manufacturing ceased as specialized technicians disappeared from critical facilities. Most terrifying of all, the missing populations left behind no records of their destination or condition. Families didn't know if their vanished relatives were dead, imprisoned, or relocated to unknown regions of space. The uncertainty created psychological trauma that spread through Council civilization like a virus. "Where are they taking our people?" demanded Counselor Myrek, her flower-like features withering with stress. "What do they want from us?" No human representative appeared to answer questions or negotiate terms. The species that had once pleaded for Council assistance now operated with godlike power while maintaining absolute silence. Their actions spoke with terrifying clarity. The debts of rejection were being collected. Emergency evacuation plans proved useless against whatever technology humanity employed. Military escorts couldn't protect civilians from disappearances that bypassed all known defensive systems. Populations vanished from heavily guarded installations as easily as from undefended colonies. "Our sensors detect no hostile activity," reported Intelligence Director Keshan, his energy form flickering with confusion. "People simply cease to exist in our dimensional framework. There are no energy discharges, no transportation signatures, no physical evidence of external intervention." The Council's greatest scientists worked desperately to understand the mechanism behind the disappearances, but human technology operated on principles that challenged fundamental understanding of physics. Weapons and defenses designed for conventional warfare proved meaningless against adversaries who manipulated reality itself. Admiral Thixon's military assessment grew more pessimistic with each report. "We cannot fight an enemy we cannot detect using weapons they have rendered obsolete. Our entire strategic doctrine assumes conflicts conducted within normal space-time parameters." The peacekeeping fleet, once the Council's ultimate authority, found itself helpless against adversaries who existed partially outside conventional reality. Human vessels appeared and vanished at will, ignoring interdiction fields and defensive barriers that should have been impenetrable. As population losses mounted, member civilizations began questioning the Council's competence and authority. Why had they rejected humanity's requests? What intelligence failures had led to such catastrophic miscalculation? How had primitive barbarians become existential threats to galactic civilization? "We created this enemy through our own arrogance," admitted Counselor Fex, his melodic voice carrying harmonics of despair. "Our refusal to help them forced them to help themselves, and they succeeded beyond our worst nightmares." The Council that had governed the galaxy for 12 millennia faced the possibility of complete irrelevance. Member species whispered about separate negotiations with humanity, seeking individual mercy from beings who had transcended the need for Council approval. But humanity remained silent, their actions speaking with mathematical precision. Every species that had participated in their rejection faced consequences, calibrated to their level of hostility. The disappearances continued with clockwork regularity, removing populations that had supported Council policies while leaving sympathetic civilians untouched. The message was clear without words. The galaxy's former outcasts had returned as its new masters, and they remembered every slight, every rejection, every moment of Council arrogance with perfect clarity. Justice had evolved beyond the Council's ability to understand or resist. The end came not with violence but with a simple transmission that appeared simultaneously on every communication network in Council space. After 5 years of silence, humanity finally spoke again. Ambassador Sarah Chen's image materialized in the Council chambers, but the woman who appeared bore little resemblance to the desperate diplomat who had pleaded for medical assistance decades earlier. Her eyes held depths that suggested experiences beyond conventional understanding, and her presence radiated quiet authority that made the chamber's ancient architecture seem small and temporary. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through dimensions the Council was only beginning to comprehend. "We returned to conclude our business." High Arbiter Kelthane struggled to maintain diplomatic composure despite the trembling in his forearms. Around him, the representatives of once mighty civilizations sat in stunned silence, their arrogance replaced by terror of beings they had dismissed as primitives. "Ambassador Chen," he managed to reply, "we welcome this opportunity for dialogue. The Council seeks to understand the recent displacement events and explore possibilities for peaceful resolution. Chen's expression never changed, but something in her eyes suggested amusement at the euphemism. Displacement events, is that what you call justice? She gestured, and holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber, showing scenes that challenged every council member's understanding of reality. The missing populations hadn't been destroyed or imprisoned. They lived in vast habitats that defied physics, artificial worlds constructed in dimensional spaces where time moved differently, and scarcity had been eliminated. Your people exist in comfort beyond anything they knew in council space, Chen explained calmly. They receive education, medical care, and opportunities for personal growth. Many have expressed gratitude for their relocation. The images showed Keltar children playing in gardens that shouldn't exist, Vorthani artists creating sculptures from materials that violated conservation laws, and ethereal collective members exploring mathematical concepts that expanded consciousness itself. You helped them? Whispered Counselor Mirak, her flower-like features struggling to process the cognitive dissonance. But why remove them from their homes? Because their homes were built on systems that ensured suffering, Chen replied, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. The Council maintains order through controlled scarcity, technological limitations, and carefully managed ignorance. We have offered your people freedom from these constraints. Admiral Thixon activated his tactical interface, desperate for any information that might restore Council military relevance. What are your demands? What terms would secure the return of our populations? Chen's smile held no warmth. Return? Admiral, you misunderstand the situation entirely. Your people weren't taken as hostages. They were offered choice, and most chose to leave. The holographic displays shifted to show voting records from the relocated populations. Given access to advanced human technology and unlimited resources, more than 90% of displaced citizens had chosen to remain in human space rather than return to Council civilization. Impossible, protested Intelligence Director Keshan, his energy form fluctuating with denial. You must be manipulating their decision-making processes through advanced psychological techniques. We gave them truth, Chen replied simply. Information about their government's policies, the resources available in advanced civilizations, and the choices previously denied to them. When presented with accurate data, most beings choose growth over stagnation. The revelation struck the Council like physical blows. Their greatest fear wasn't military conquest, but ideological obsolescence. Humanity had proven that the Council's careful balance of scarcity and control was unnecessary, that abundance and freedom could coexist with stability. What do you want? From us? Demanded High Arbiter Kelthane, his ancient voice cracking under the weight of civilizational collapse. Nothing, Chen answered, and her sincerity was more terrifying than any threat. Humanity no longer requires anything the Council can offer. We have moved beyond the need for your approval, your resources, or your existence. She gestured again, and new displays showed the scope of human expansion beyond the galaxy's edge. Vast networks of artificial systems stretched across previously empty space, connected by transportation methods that treated galactic distances as minor inconveniences. We build new worlds now, create new physics, explore realities the Council never imagined. The galaxy you govern has become quaint, a museum of limitations we have outgrown. Counselor Vrax's scaled hide rippled with desperate aggression. You cannot simply ignore established galactic order. The Council maintains peace between hundreds of species across thousands of systems. Peace built on ensuring that no one grows strong enough to challenge your authority, Chen observed. We have demonstrated alternatives. Your remaining populations will make their own choices about whether to join us or maintain the status quo. The transmission's final segment showed real-time footage of human installations throughout Council space. Not invasions, but invitation centers where citizens of member species could learn about opportunities in human civilization. Long lines of beings waited patiently for orientation sessions. This is our gift to the galaxy, Chen explained. The same choice humanity faced when you rejected our requests for assistance. You may continue governing those who prefer familiar limitations, or you may learn to exceed them. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't conquering Council civilization. They were making it irrelevant by offering superior alternatives. Citizens who experienced human technology and abundance wouldn't need to be forced to abandon their old governments. "And if we refuse to allow this recruitment?" asked Admiral Thixon, though his question sounded hollow even to himself. Chen's expression never changed. "Admiral, you cannot prevent choices you lack the power to constrain. Your weapons cannot harm our installations. Your sensors cannot track our vessels, and your authority extends only as far as your citizens' willingness to accept limitations." The transmission began to fade as Chen prepared to conclude humanity's final communication with the Galactic Council. Her last words echoed through the chamber with finality that transcended mere diplomacy. The galaxy will remember that humanity asked for partnership and received rejection. It will also remember that when we gained the power to take revenge, we chose instead to offer freedom. The difference between these choices defines the distance between civilization and barbarism. The transmission ended, leaving the council chambers in absolute silence. Outside, across thousands of worlds, citizens lined up at human invitation centers to learn about realities beyond their government's imagination. The age of council authority was ending not with conquest but with exodus, as the galaxy's population freely chose to abandon familiar chains for unfamiliar liberty. Humanity had left in silence and returned in triumph, offering the ultimate irony. The species that had been deemed unworthy of assistance now offered assistance to those who had rejected them. And the galaxy, given genuine choice for the first time in millennia, was choosing to follow humanity beyond the stars toward futures the Council could never have imagined.